the old arch nemesis of QB desperate franchises, is at it again. In fact, you might even call him the Archie nemesis. He's back to throw a bucket of freezing cold ice water all over anybody's plans to suck this season and line up first to draft his phenom grandson. That's right. Archie Manning is back doing what he does best, or back what he did really well back in the day. Now, he's making viral headlines once again by talking about the draft. This time, though, he's not telling the Chargers, who, by the way, had a horrible break today. Get to that. He's not telling the Chargers this time to back off. He's actually telling the entire league to back the hell off, at least for now. Archie says you can officially cancel your dopey slogans. No more Arch Madness, or my preferred favorite, Ass for Arch. At least if Archie is to be believed, going ass for Arch will not get you Arch. It will just get you a full season of ass. In other words, rooting for your team to lose for better draft position is so goofy and lame anyway, but it's also pointless if the goal is to achieve Arch Madness. Because apparently Arch will not even be in the draft next year, at least according to Grandpa Buzzkill. The Manning patriarch was interviewed as part of an extremely lengthy piece in Texas Monthly magazine. And on the topic of Arch and the 2026 draft, Archie's response was, quote, "Arch isn't going to do that. He'll be at Texas." End of quote. Boom! That sounds pretty definitive. You hear that sound? Can you hear that sound? That's Cleveland fan and New Orleans fan doing their very best Luke Skywalker impressions.
No! It's not true. That's impossible.
No! Hey, listen, who knows exactly what's going to go down? Nobody can predict the future, not even Archie Buzzkill. But it's pretty clear that as of right now, the Mannings are not thinking in terms of the 2026 draft. So, sorry, Browns fan. Sorry, Saints fan. Looks like you'll actually have to try to win. Now, in the event, you might bomb anyway. You might bomb it at this point and say, whoa, Rome. The dude's already the Vegas favorite. He's already the favorite to get picked first overall, and he has been for months now. He's the favorite to go first overall, Rome. He's the favorite to win the Heisman, Rome. So what if this kid kills it this season? And there's all this hype, and he's got nothing left to prove, and he's already pre-coronated as the first pick overall. Hell, what if they win the Natty? The hell would he go back to school for? I mean, it's possible if you want to deal with all these hypotheticals. It's possible. What I'm saying is, the Mannings are not thinking like that. You all are, especially you Browns fans and you Saints fans. But the people who matter most, the Manning fam, they're not thinking like that, even if things do go great. Apparently, he's still thinking about at least 2 more seasons there. That apparently is the plan. And that's also not new thinking either. That is not some new plan either. It's been the plan all along, it seems to be. And not only do I think it's a reasonable plan, I agree with that plan. Listen, this dude is 21. He has started 2 games. 2 games. Who the hell cares what Vegas says? Who the hell cares that he's the Heisman Trophy favorite? Who cares that he's favored to go first overall? I mean, there's a very obvious reason for all of these odds. His name is Arch Manning. It doesn't change the fact, though, we have a very small sample size. Doesn't change the fact that he went to Austin in order to develop as a QB. How much has he developed in 2 games? So why should this guy be in a rush? Because he's not. And why should he be? Seriously, what is the big rush to get this guy to the NFL? especially from his perspective. Why does Arch need to be in a race to get to the NFL? This dude's name is Archie Manning. He's going to play in the NFL. He's going to be a high draft pick. He doesn't need to jump through the very first door that's open. It's way more beneficial to him to make sure that he's as prepared as possible rather than getting there as quickly as possible. When did this become a race? Arch would be the first one to tell you that all this hype is so overblown and that he's just focused on actually finally playing and getting better. Remember this response from SEC Media Days when he was asked about being the Heisman favorite.
I'm not really sure how they get these opinions because I've only played, 2 games? But I guess that's nice of them to say, but, that doesn't mean anything. Talk is cheap. I got to go prove it.
Why is this guy the most reasonable guy in the room? The kid himself will tell you, talk is cheap. I haven't proven anything yet. The hype is out of control. I have barely even been on the field. I've got a hell of a long way to go and a lot of work to do. And it's all true. He's not deluding himself and sniffing himself and reading his own clippings and buying into his own social media hype and thinking he's already arrived and deserves an NFL franchise stat. This dude's got a plan, and he's been working that plan, and he's going to keep working that plan and planning that work, and the plan was never to rush to the NFL or start 1 year and bounce. And that's not news either if you've been paying attention to this at all. We already know this dude's not in a rush. How do we know this? Because if he was in a rush, he would have left Texas and started at almost any other program in the country last season rather than wait and back up Quinn Ewers again. He didn't have to do that. I mean, he's Arch Manning. He didn't have to. He chose to. Because as he has said repeatedly, since he was a young child, Texas is where he wants to be. Not even joking. We actually have proof of him saying that as a young child.
Thanks for the t-shirts. They're nice. Ladies are going to be all over me. I want to go to Texas. Thanks for the t-shirts.
Bro's like, hey, man, the ladies are going to be all over me. Arch is like, man, I got a plan. I already got a plan. I'm 5, and I got a plan. I'm going to Texas. Look at my shirt, yo. Look at my shirt. I've already got my plan, and I'm working my plan. I'm going to UT. So there you go.
I want to go to Texas.
Here's something else to consider. Mannings, and I know times have changed, but Mannings do not come out early. Archie, Pate, Eli, they all started 3 full seasons. They all used up all their eligibility. They all entered the draft after their senior seasons. Arch, once again, is going into his redshirt sophomore season. So to the people around him, staying in school does not sound crazy at all. Maybe to all of you in the Vegas odds makers, but the people around him, that doesn't sound weird to them at all. In fact, to them, it sounds like really sound strategy. And of course, the biggest factor here, or really the biggest non-factor here, is money. I mean, aside from development, but money. The dude does not need money. He's a Manning. Think about it. He already comes from extraordinary wealth. He's already making a bleep ton himself. He's already raking it in. His current NIL evaluation is $6.5 million, and he's only started 2 games. He's already got a major sponsorship deal with Red Bull. Presumably, he stands to make a lot more than that going forward if he turns out to be the player that everybody assumes he's going to be. And he can make all that paper right there in Austin and does not need to go to the Shield. Let me give you another example, another comp. Do you know how much Cam Ward is going to make per year from the Titans over the next 4 years as the number 1 pick overall? A little over 12 mil. A little over 12 mil per. It's not that crazy. It's not that much of a reach to imagine that if Arch is Arch and Arch shows up like Arch, Arch might actually get into that neighborhood, or at least on the outside looking in at that neighborhood while he's still at Texas. So tell me again, what is the rush to go to the NFL, especially if he's going to end up in a bad situation when he's in potentially a great situation right where he is right now? You know, it's kind of funny, right? For all the joking about Archie, Grandpa now, manipulating the draft once again, Archie doesn't really need to manipulate anything at all because Arch is in total control right now. And if it's to say the Browns, who wind up picking him in the next draft, why would he sign up for that? You tell me, what's a better deal for Arch? Going and being a pro for the Browns, or staying in college and getting paid and being a Longhorn? That's a no-brainer. No way are you going to the Browns. All day long, you're staying in college. Yeah, but what if the Browns have the first pick? Oh, no, especially if they have the first pick. Hell no, I'm not going to that situation. So why not stay on campus, get paid big cash? Why not continue to hone your game, get another year developing under Sark? How can that be a bad thing? Live the good life in college rather than go rush in to save a dumpster fire that's got nothing to do with you. No offense, Cleveland.
What's so good about Cleveland?
And Arch is really not going to want to play for some loser team that tries to lose on purpose to pick him. So, it's pretty much R.I.P. to Arch Madness today. Too bad for any fans who are pinning all their hopes on their team being horrendous this year. Now, the good news is they probably will be horrendous anyway. They just won't get Arch Madness. Then again, never say never, right? I would declare ass for Arch officially dead, but I know full well people will not stop pumping this guy up, especially if things go really well this season. Imagine what will happen if this dude rolls into the shoe week 1 at Ohio State and he puts it on the Buckeyes. Man, it won't matter what any Manning says. It won't matter if Archie, Eli, and Pate and Cooper all try and do some intervention. It won't matter what anybody says. Man, that hype train will leave that station at approximately the speed of light if Texas wins that game and Arch lights it up in the process. Which is why it's going to be a fascinating season. A fascinating Longhorn football season. I just personally would not count on Arch being in the draft next year if I were a desperate NFL front office. Nor would I doubt Archie when it comes to pouring cold water all over a franchise's dreams at the top of the draft. It wouldn't be the first time. I bet he still has that club in his bag. You know what? Maybe a good time, Archie. Maybe a good time to make things right. You steered him away from the Chargers back in the day. Why don't you steer him towards the Rams in this day? That way we can ram it for the next decade here in SoCal. I wouldn't assume anything. I don't care what the odds makers say. The guy's played 2 games. He might be all that. But how about this? Instead of awarding this guy the Heisman Trophy before his first game as a starter, why don't we, full-time starter, why don't we let him actually win the Heisman Trophy? Instead of congratulating him on leading them to a natty, why don't we see them actually win the natty? And then, even if he does all that, who's to say he comes out? If I knew the Browns were waiting for me, I'm not coming out. I don't care if this guy throws 40 TDs, no picks, and wins a natty. I'm staying in school.